Chicago just became the #1 city in America in 2026, officially. TripAdvisor awarded Chicago 3 major titles at the same time: Top US Destination, Top Food City, and Top Trending Destination in the world. Most people still think of New York or Los Angeles when someone mentions America's greatest city. But in 2026, they might be wrong, because while the spotlight stayed focused on the coasts, Chicago quietly became one of the most exciting cities on the planet. A city of world-changing architecture, legendary food, endless lakefronts, and a history built on one simple idea: if something gets knocked down, build it back bigger. This is Chicago, and by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why it just took the top spot in America. This is Wish Spots. Let's go. Chicago sits on the shores of Lake Michigan in the heart of the American Midwest, a city that grew from a small trading post into one of the most influential urban centers on the planet. But what makes Chicago extraordinary is not what it built, it is what it rebuilt. In 1871, the Great Chicago Fire tore through the city in a single night, destroying more than 17,000 buildings and leaving a third of the population homeless. Most cities would have taken generations to recover. Chicago treated it as an opportunity. What followed was one of the most ambitious building booms in American history. Architects from around the world arrived with a single mission: design the city of the future. The result was the birth of the modern skyscraper. The world's first high-rise buildings rose from the ashes of the fire right here. Chicago did not just rebuild itself, it invented an entirely new way for human beings to live. Begin your journey in the Loop, the beating heart of downtown Chicago, surrounded by the city's famous elevated train system, known simply as the L. Walking through the Loop feels like walking through a living museum of architecture. Every block tells a different chapter of the same story, from the world's first skyscrapers built in the 19th century to the glass and steel giants that now stretch into the clouds above them. The Willis Tower still dominates the skyline with an authority few buildings have ever matched. Once the tallest building on Earth for nearly 25 years, it remains one of the most recognizable structures in America. Ride to the sky deck on the 103rd floor. Step onto the glass ledge. Look down at the city nearly 1,500 feet below. On a windy day, you may feel the building sway ever so slightly beneath your feet. That is not a flaw, that is engineering. The tower was designed to move so it never breaks. Chicago built the future, then it built a building that breathes. Just a few blocks away lies one of the most remarkable public spaces in America, Millennium Park. What was once a collection of rail yards and parking lots is now considered one of the greatest urban parks of the modern era. At its center stands Cloud Gate, a polished stainless steel sculpture weighing 110 tons. Locals simply call it the Bean. Its curved surface reflects the entire skyline back at you, bending and stretching the city into something almost surreal. Standing beneath it is one of those rare moments where public art genuinely stops people in their tracks. Nearby stands the J. Pritzker Pavilion, designed by Frank Gehry. Its sweeping titanium forms catch the sunlight like the sails of a ship frozen in motion. This is a park that behaves like a masterpiece, and Chicago built it for everyone. Follow the south bank of the Chicago River, and you discover one of the city's most underrated experiences, the Chicago Riverwalk. Here, glass and steel towers rise from the water's edge like modern cliffs. From river level, the buildings feel even more impossible than they do from the street. And there is one experience every visitor should have: the Chicago Architecture Boat Tour, a journey beneath historic bridges and through one of the greatest collections of architecture anywhere in the world. Even architects who have spent decades studying these buildings still take this tour, because some things need to be seen from the right angle before you truly understand them. Just west of downtown, another revolution quietly changed the world. In Oak Park, a young architect named Frank Lloyd Wright spent 20 years designing buildings unlike anything that existed before. Low horizontal lines, open flowing spaces, nature integrated into every detail. Step inside his home and studio and you are standing where the prairie style was born, a movement that forever changed how people thought about architecture. Oak Park is where that future was drawn by hand, and today you can still walk through it. Along the waterfront south of Millennium Park lies one of the greatest concentrations of knowledge in America, the Museum Campus. The Field Museum alone contains more than 20 million specimens from around the world. At its center stands Sue, the largest and most complete Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton ever discovered. For more than 2 decades, she has been stopping visitors in their tracks. Children, adults, scientists, everyone. Further south sits the Museum of Science and Industry, a place where curiosity becomes an adventure. Chicago's museums do not simply display the world, they make you feel connected to it. Chicago's greatest gift to its people may be its lakefront. Lincoln Park stretches for 7 miles along Lake Michigan, a ribbon of green space connecting neighborhoods, beaches, monuments, and nature reserves. At its southern end stands Abraham Lincoln in bronze, looking out across the city. The Lincoln Park Zoo has welcomed visitors since 1868 and remains remains one of the few major zoos in America that is completely free. Then there is Lake Michigan itself. Stand at the shoreline and look east. There is no visible land on the horizon, only water, blue, endless. It does not feel like a lake. It feels like the edge of a continent, and in many ways, it is. As the sun drops below the city skyline, Chicago changes. The towers begin to glow. The river fills with reflections. The L train curves through downtown in sparks and light. Chicago became the northern home of the blues. It helped shape the sound of modern jazz, and in 2026, its music scene remains one of the most vibrant in America. Jazz clubs on the north side, blues bars on the south side, historic theaters in the Loop. The city comes alive after dark. Chicago does not close early. It never has. This is a city built by people who refused to stop, people who burned down and started over, people who looked at an empty piece of land beside a lake and decided to build the future. Architecture, art, music, fire, rebirth. Chicago is not the loudest city in America. It is not the most famous. It does not demand your attention the way other cities do. It simply creates something extraordinary and waits for you to notice. Every city has a story. Chicago's story is the one that explains how America learned to dream vertically, how a nation that had always built outward finally looked up at the sky and decided to reach for it. Come to Chicago, walk through the Loop, stand beneath the bean, take the river tour, watch Lake Michigan turn gold at sunset, and when the wind hits you coming off the water, cold, fast, and completely indifferent to your plans, you will understand why they call it the Windy City, and why the people who live here would not trade it for anywhere else on Earth. This is Wish Spots. We'll see you at